Hey everyone, ready for a deep dive into something kinda unsettling? Today, we're tackling lying. That thing we all do. And get this, the research says most of us do it once or twice a day, every single day.
Yeah, kind of makes you think, huh? Shows how deeply rooted deception is and how we interact. And it's not like it's a new thing either. It's ancient, really.
Right, and we're not talking about like those big, elaborate con artist schemes you see in movies.
Right.
It's the little everyday stuff, like telling a friend you're busy to get out of their thing when really you just want to stay in.
Yeah. Those white lies, they're interesting, right? Shows how lying isn't always meant to be mean.
Totally. So it's not always malicious, but why do we do it then? What's the research say?
Well, it looks like there are three big reasons we fib.
Hit me with number one.
Okay, so sometimes it's self-protection, our image, our reputation, that kind of thing.
Makes sense.
Like, oh, if they knew this about me. It's embarrassing.
Been there. What's next?
Number two is about getting something. Approval, maybe an advantage over someone. Think about those resumes that stretch the truth just a bit, or telling someone what they want to hear, even if it's not quite true.
Classic. Fake it till you make it. All right, last one. Lay on me.
Number three, it's about dodging consequences. You screw up and your brain's like, how do I get out of this? Lame game. Classic.
Oh, totally. Like when you spill on your laptop and blame the cat. And what? Hold on, it gets weirder. The research also talks about lying to help someone else. Pro-social lies.
Right. That's where it's tricky. Is it lying or just being like polite? Seems these white lies, if they're coming from a good place, can actually help people get along.
So instead of saying your friend's haircut looks crazy, you say it's different.
Exactly. Or pretending to be super excited about news, even if you don't care. Little lies, but they keep things smooth.
Fascinating stuff.
Yeah.
So white lies, maybe not all bad? Who knew? But let's be real, these things can backfire.
Oh, absolutely. The research is very clear on that. Like that saying, one lie leads to another, and suddenly you're trapped in a web of your own making. It's a slippery slope.
And it's not just our relationships that take a hit, right? There's the personal toll dishonesty takes on us too. It's got to be rough.
You're right. One study found that even tiny, seemingly insignificant lies can make us more likely to tell bigger lies later on. Like each lie makes it easier to lie again in the future, if that makes sense.
Wow. So it's not just the lie itself, but how it changes us over time.
Yeah, and don't forget about the mental energy it takes to keep track of those lies. That feeling when someone brings up something you lied about weeks ago and you got to remember all the details. Keep your story straight. The research calls that the cognitive load of lying, and it can really mess with your mental well-being, leading to more stress, anxiety, even guilt.
It's like trying to juggle chainsaws on a unicycle. Something has to give eventually.
Right.
Speaking of things giving, the research also talks about how dishonesty impacts our relationships, both personally and professionally.
Absolutely. There's this quote from the research that really got me thinking. It's from Turquoise Almanac, a well-known psychologist. He said, "The worst thing about being lied to is knowing that you are not worthy of the truth." That really sums up the feeling of betrayal that dishonesty can cause.
It's like a punch to the gut, especially from someone you trust. It can be so hard to get past that. And often it leads to communication breakdowns and distance in the relationship.
And, trust is the basis of any strong relationship, whether it's with a partner, a family member, a friend, or even a colleague. Once you damage that, it can be really tough to rebuild.
It's like trying to build a house on quicksand. And speaking of shifting sands, let's move on to another area impacted by dishonesty, the business world.
For sure, the research shows how dishonesty can be toxic to a company, impacting everything from their finances to employee morale.
It's like they say, cheaters never prosper. Though in this case, it's not just about some moral high ground, right? We're talking about real-world consequences that hurt the bottom line.
Exactly. And those consequences can be brutal, not just for the company itself, but for the people involved. Employees who get laid off or investors who lose their money because of a company's dishonesty. It's a powerful reminder that dishonesty, no matter how small, can snowball into something much bigger.
It really makes you wonder, in a world flooded with half-truths and straight-up lies, how do we even navigate this? How do we protect ourselves from being misled?
That's a great question, and the research actually offers some guidance on that front.
Okay, so let's hear it. What can we do to become better at spotting lies and protect ourselves?
Well, one thing the research emphasizes is developing informed skepticism, which basically means approaching information with a healthy dose of curiosity and a willingness to dig a little deeper.
So don't just take everything at face value, even if it sounds convincing or comes from someone who seems credible.
Exactly. The research points to a phenomenon called the halo effect, where we're more likely to believe something if it comes from someone we already see as trustworthy or authoritative, even if what they're saying isn't actually true.
It's like that saying, don't believe everything you read on the internet. Or, from that one friend who always has a story that seems a little too good to be true, right?
Exactly. And another thing to watch out for is what researchers call economical truths, which are statements that are technically true but leave out important context, leading to a misleading picture of the situation.
So it's not just about outright lies, but also about recognizing when we're only getting a very carefully curated version of the truth.
Exactly. It's like looking at a beautiful, intricate tapestry, but someone strategically covered up a section of it, hiding a crucial detail. The part you can see might still be beautiful, but it doesn't give you the full picture.
It's like those optical illusions where what you see depends on how you look at it. What you see isn't always the whole story. But with all this talk about dishonesty and deception, it's easy to feel overwhelmed, isn't it? Like, how do we stay vigilant without becoming overly suspicious of everything and everyone?
Well, that's where critical thinking comes in. It's about questioning things, asking yourself, who benefits from this information being presented this way? What could be missing from this story? And maybe most importantly, are my own biases or assumptions affecting my judgment?
So it's like being a detective in our own lives, always looking for clues and putting the pieces together before making up our minds.
Precisely. And here's a more positive thought. While it's crucial to recognize how common dishonesty is, the research also shows the power of honesty, and not just because it's the right thing to do, but because it has practical benefits.
It's like the old saying, honesty is the best policy. But now we have the research to prove it.
Exactly. The research shows a clear link between honesty and a happier, more fulfilling life. People who prioritize honesty in their relationships tend to have stronger connections, both in their personal lives and at work. And they experience less stress and anxiety because they're not weighed down by the burden of keeping up a facade or maintaining all those lies.
It's like they're building their lives on solid ground, while those who choose dishonesty are constantly on shaky ground.
That's a great way to put it. And let's not forget the feeling of peace and self-respect that comes from living in accordance with our values. When we're honest with ourselves and others, we cultivate a sense of integrity that affects everything we do in a positive way.
It's about recognizing that while dishonesty might offer shortcuts or advantages in the moment, it's a hollow victory in the end. Truth, however, has a way of enduring. There's a quote by Ismail Haniyeh that I find myself coming back to. Some people think that the truth can be hidden with a little cover-up and decoration, but as time goes by, what is true is revealed, and what is fake fades away.
It's a potent reminder that being genuine matters for ourselves and those around us.
Absolutely. So as we wrap up our deep dive into honesty and deception, let's remember this. The truth has a way of coming out, even if it takes time. So stay true to yourself, be mindful of the information you encounter, and never underestimate the importance of healthy skepticism. Fascinating stuff.